Robert Haig Coxon was born in Montreal, Canada, and studied composition at McGill University. Highly regarded as a multi-keyboardist, Robert draws on a broad range of personal, spiritual, and musical experience to create his music for meditation. He has been nominated 3 times for the prestigious Felix Award, which is equivalent to the Grammy, and slowly became Canada's best-selling New Age artist in 1995. He released perhaps his best-known album to date, Silent Path, which almost instantly became #1 in Canada and France. Let's welcome Robert for tonight's Star Darbar. Tonight, we are really privileged to have Robert Coxon with us. And it is our pleasure that he actually give us his time for my viewers and our viewers. And thank you so much for coming here, Robert. We want to know more about Robert Coxon. So if you can give us the inner side, the inward eye from Robert Coxon himself. I mean, I can say truly yourself.
First of all, I live in Canada, north of Montreal, which is the eastern part of Canada. I live on top of a mountain, sacred mountain to me, Mount Gabriel. This is where I compose my music. I'm a composer, and I've been doing music really most of my life. I also had another passion, which I still have, but I haven't taken the time to do it, as a painter, artist, drawing, painting, and doing all sorts of artwork. But at one point I had to make a choice, so I'm doing the music. And I love it. Where I live, I can connect with nature, and that's a great inspiration for me as I write music. Hugging the trees and getting information and bringing in the beautiful melodies.
We all know that you are a child prodigy and you started to play piano at 2. You wrote your first piano piece at the age of 10, and you have sold 500,000 copies of your instrumental albums. Indeed, you are a truly and gifted musician of all. And we want to know how that happened, when you started, and how was it?
I started playing the piano at a very, very young age. My grandmother had a piano, one of my grandmothers, and she was showing me how to play pieces when I was 1.5. By then, my fingers, I guess, were big enough to play the piano, and I've been playing ever since. When I was 9 years old, she said to me that if I would take official piano lessons, in other words, study classical music, Beethoven and Mozart and Bach, all those composers, then she would give me her piano. And I knew that was a sacrifice for her because she loved playing. So I immediately jumped on this opportunity, and at 9 years old I started official piano lessons and learning to play the scales and learning to play pieces, and I very quickly started writing my own pieces, like composing little pieces of music. They weren't very elaborate at that point, I don't think, but I was writing little pieces, and besides learning to play other people's music, I was learning how to, what we would say, play by ear, just hear music and play it. But how did I really get into this whole thing? My 2 grandmothers, one was the music lady, and she opened up that door for me to music. But I had another grandmother who actually, she lived in New York City, and she worked for a multimillionaire. She was a private nurse for multimillionaires. So she had lots of free time and lots of opportunity to go and study with the famous metaphysicians. And so she was studying spirituality. And when I was very I remember 7, 8 years old. She would come up to Montreal on vacations, and she would start opening me up to this universe of everything that's not just the 3D world. And to be, I think, a great artist, you have to connect at that level. You have to connect to at a spiritual level where, where do the ideas come? Where does the music come from? Where does the inspiration for the great painters, the great sculptors, the great writers, where does it come from? It comes from what I now know and call the field, the quantum field. So I was learning things at a very young age, 7, 8 years old, 9, 10 years old. I was hearing all the weird things. And this is before we even talked about people that were into New Age and New Age thinking, New Age music, New Age whatever. This was called New Thought then. Of course, it wasn't New Thought. The ancient sages knew about this. The Indian sages knew this thousands of years ago, that there are other realms. And if we connect to it, this is where all the wisdom comes from. So I try to tap into this with my music. And at one point, this was quite a bit later. I was in my 30s, late 30s, and I was having severe back pain that I couldn't perform. It was just excruciating back pain. And I went to my doctor, and we had all sorts of tests done, and then she sent me for physiotherapy, electrophysiotherapy, all sorts of things. And then we tried to find, she suggested that I learn how to meditate properly, and maybe that would help. And I tried all sorts of things, and nothing would work until I sat down and prayed and asked the universe, help. The next day, I opened up the newspaper, and there's this ad there for a thing called the Silva Mind Control, learning how to control your own mind. And they were having a free evening, introductory evening. So I went to this introductory evening with my wife then, and we loved it. They were showing us amazing things that telling us that we were going to learn. So I went and took the course. And the course was from Monday to Sunday. So it was every evening during the week, and then all day Saturday and all day Sunday. An intense full week. And we're sitting there and we're learning how to visualize. And funny, they never called it meditation because that would scare some people away. That sounds too religious. That sounds too spiritual. But they talked about going to level, and they talked about going to the alpha state, the brainwave state, where you're lowering your brainwave frequency. And the state you're in when you're dreaming, the state you're in when you're visualizing. And of course, I only went there to get rid of this back pain. And by Wednesday night, the back pain was excruciating. But then I arrived there Thursday evening, and after the first exercise, the pain is gone completely. And we learn many, many other things, and we learn how to visualize, we learn how to open up to your intuition. And so by Sunday, everything was amazing. Everything was amazing in the course. And when I got out of there, I realized that I could visualize things, but one of the visions I had was to create music, special music, because during this course, they were playing music to help you to relax. And me already being a composer, I thought, this is easy music to write. Why don't I sit down and do this? And I had the faith to stop everything. I was the band leader of a very successful band, but playing in a hotel and making very good money, but where to go from there? So we took a little vacation, and I never went back. I said, I'm going to do something else. Something was guiding me, and I sat down and took a month and wrote my first cassette. It wasn't a CD then, it was a cassette called Crystal Silence. And this I did it on a $300 budget. My friend helped me. We recorded it at his house. And as I was writing this music, though, I had the speakers near the windows on the floor, and along the ledge, this long, big window across the whole room, there were all sorts of plants, and they were, trying to grow towards the light. And after a couple of weeks of writing this music, the plants had turned around and they were facing the speakers. And I thought, wow, music, how powerful can music be? So as I was very excited about this, and this was the beginning of me becoming a composer of this type of music that is, first of all, relaxing. That was my first point, to write. In fact, the subtitle on Crystal Silence was The Ultimate Relaxation. And that was the point, to get people to relax. But then once I got this out into the stores, and the magic happened. There is a divine plan, synchronicity in the universe for things happening. And so I've been continuing since then. I have 11, 12, 13, 14, 12 albums maybe that are available now. And I love it because I'm really I know the music is helping people.
That was fantastic. Robert, you have been nominated for 4 times actually for the prestigious Felix Award, and that is equivalent to Grammy. We really want to know that how do you feel about it? And of course, another thing I want to ask you that you have become Canada's best-selling new age artist. How do you feel about it? What, did you ever harbor a dream of pursuing music professionally?
I think the thing that touches me so much is how many people are being helped by it. The music that I've been writing has changed people's lives, not just saved people's lives, but people that are, not just for health issues, many issues. It helps them to get into their power. They're doing the healing, but the music is getting them in a state of consciousness where they can accept, yes, I can be healthy. Yes, I can be wealthy. Yes, I can be successful. Yes, I can feel love, first of all, for myself. And then I can radiate this love because now I feel wonderful. So I feel, I guess, honored to be able to help in that way. I don't know if I ever thought about it, but I just knew I was going to be doing music. I felt I was also going to be doing painting because I did that, in my early teens. I did that as much as music. And in fact, I was, when I was 18 years old, I was even before that, I was a professional graphic artist. But when I finished high school, I had to decide, do I do the music or do I do the artwork, the painting? And I decided to do the music because I felt the art, the painting was very natural, and it can be very natural. But with music, to be a composer, there's so much to learn, about all the instruments, about writing for the symphonic orchestra, about writing for jazz bands, about writing different pieces of music from, different styles from all over the world. There was so much to learn. So I decided to go to university, and Interestingly, everyone, says, well, you can't make any money doing music. And what I had to say, not to them, but to myself, I'd say it within myself, just watch me. And that's not the ego talking, that's just determination and knowing where you're supposed to fit in life. And so I went through university, and when I finished studying my composition work, then my parents suggested that I also get a teaching diploma, because then I would always have something to fall back on. I could teach music. So I got a teaching diploma, and then I taught high school band for, I think it was 4 years. And then my partner I had met then, Lena, she and I decided to get married, and I decided to quit. I wanted to perform. I wanted to play music. I didn't want to be in a classroom teaching, although I really honor that profession, and it was fun when I was there. But then it was, oh my God, how can you make any money performing music? How can you be a success with that? No, that doesn't happen very often. And inside myself, I thought, well, watch me. And so as soon as I quit the teaching, actually my parents had a secret meeting with my future wife, and because they were all worried, can't you convince Robert to stay, and steady job, you're going to have children, you want a house and all this and that, and a steady income. And she said, he's not happy doing that. And so 2 weeks after I stopped teaching, I became the music director for a 10-piece disco band, which was fun at that age. You're 25 or whatever. And we were successful. It was a lineup every night of 2 hours to get in there to hear us and to dance to our music. And I was the music director, and so I wrote all the arrangements for the band, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And the synchronicity of the universe, the guitar player the second guitar player that came in this group was from a famous Canadian band. And he said, we're putting the group back together. So I ended up being in that group. And that I learned, a lot about professionally playing on stage and playing concerts, not just, playing some dance music for people to dance while they're drinking. So that was my next step. And after I toured with that for quite a while, and, learning how to travel, take airplanes and sign autographs, all that thing, which is fun at that age, Then I came back to Montreal and put my own groups together. But at that one point when I quit that type of job and decided to just be a composer, it was, oh my God, again, people don't make money writing music, composers don't make money. So watch me. And then I just, it wasn't an ego thing at all. It wasn't like, oh, I'm that great, I'm fantastic. No, I didn't even think of that. I just thought, I have a mission here to write music to help people and to help the world. And I find out also to help Mother Earth.
We all know that your international breakthrough came after composing your album, The Silent Path, in 1995. And eventually your album was an instant hit in Canada, USA, and France. Our viewers would love to know about it, more about this album, that how you conceived the idea of Silent Path.
The Silent Path, yes. That was my 5th album. Yeah, a 5th or 6th album. And this was the first album where I was not using synthesizers. I was using some live instruments. I had a cello player in there, had a singer, not singing words, but singing as a musical instrument. And a flute player, various things in it. So classical guitar. And how did the Silent Path come about? That was interesting. Before I wrote it, I had been going, as a teenager, I went to a spiritual center called Unity. Their headquarters are in the U.S., but they're from all over the world. They have centers. And they were teaching metaphysics. So it was based on the Bible, but it was the metaphysical level of things, of meditation and manifesting your life, etc. And I had stopped going there for a long time, but at one point they were buying from me and selling my cassettes. And so I delivered some cassettes there one day, and the secretary said, "Robert, we have this new teacher here, new minister, and he's amazing. You have to come and see him." And I said to her, well, I'm not really into the church thing now. And she says, "Yeah, but he's not like the others at all, So she said, instead of coming on Sunday, there's a class on Wednesday night that's not like church, where he's just teaching. And so I decided to go there one Wednesday night. I went there, and the place was packed. There was people sitting on the stairs. There was people sitting on the floor. Every seat was taken, right up to the front. And so he goes and gives this long meditation that he just channeled through. It just came through, he was, and he was playing one of my cassettes for the whole thing. So at the end, when I'm leaving, and he's, shaking everyone's hand as they're leaving and saying hello and goodbye, and I came up to him and said, "By the way, that's my music you were playing." And we became best friends. I ended up becoming the music director for this center. So I would bring a synthesizer there, and they already had a piano there, and I would play on Wednesday evening, and then I would play also on Sunday. For these meditations that he was bringing through. And these were long ones. Most ministers, they do a little prayer or something, or it's maybe a 5-10 minute thing. On the Wednesday, it would be like half an hour, 35, 40 minutes. And on Sunday, maybe 20 minutes, half an hour even. And it became so popular that they had to put another service on Sunday. So there'd be a 9 o'clock one and an 11 o'clock one. So I was doing 3 things there. And when I was playing, I was just, the music was just coming through. I was not making it up. I was hearing it and playing it. And sometimes amazing pieces would come through. This was amazing because the really good ones, I would remember them. And they could be quite complicated. I'd remember them, and when I'd get home, I'd sit down at my keyboard and play them into the computer. And then I would orchestrate them, in other words, add the various instruments that had to be there. If there was a guitar or a flute or strings or, whatever, piano, anything. And this is what became the Silent Path. I took those pieces, and I would say 80%, 75, 80% of that album was music that came through during those spiritual meditations. So this was powerful stuff. And I recorded the album, and this is the first one where I seriously hired some other musicians to play, going into a big studio to record it. And magic happened. The album got out there, and then it opened me up into the United States, and I became, in the top 10 sellers in the United States, and continue being number one in Canada. I'd have one album out, it'd be number one, and then I'd bring another one out, it'd be one and two, and it's this one on and on like that. And this opened up things in Europe too. And how do I feel about this? I feel really honored that it came through me. It's like, why me? And that I was able to bring forth this music and into the 3D world. This album I've had so much, what would I say, testimonials or things happen because of that, to people, because of them listening to that. There was a research project that was done in Romania with little children in an orphanage. And these children had, they'd lost their parents because of the wars that were going on there. So these children were traumatized and they had severe attention deficit. They couldn't play with toys for more than 30 seconds. And two of the children were autistic. They'd never spoken. And one child, he was so, psychologically disturbed that his whole day was spent hiding under a table. This was sad, So they did an experiment. They played the Silent Path very, very softly, 24 hours a day for a month and a half. And this did something. After 1 month, they had totally gotten rid of attention deficit without using Ritalin, without using any medicine at all, just the music. Every child could play for 30 minutes with things, with focused. And interestingly, one of the autistic children started speaking. And really powerfully, that child that was hiding under the table, he became the group leader. So, powerful stuff. It's, when I hear this, it's like, oh my God, Yeah.
We are going to be back next week with more Robert Coxon. Don't go away.